Hey soulmates, welcome back. On today's episode, I'm going to teach you how I made these dangling beads. For this tutorial, we're going to use regular threads as opposed to using invisible threads. And I want to discuss the importance of using a good thread when you want to bead with a regular thread. So you see the big thread, it's usually a better quality compared to the smaller thread. It doesn't break easily like the smaller thread does. I don't think it's visible enough, but the bigger thread has a smoother appearance compared to the smaller thread, and it makes it glide easily through your needle. It's also stronger. It doesn't break or cut easily like the smaller thread does. So that way you don't have to worry about your thread cutting as you are beading. So I generally prefer using the bigger thread because it's better. This is a sequence we'll use as the stopper. We just cut it off. In a previous tutorial, I discussed how to thread your needle and how to knot on illusion net. I will put the link to the tutorial in the description box below. So as opposed to knotting 3 times when you're using invisible thread, you can just do your knot 2 times on your illusion net. It will stay properly on it. So you would pierce your needle through the net and make sure you're doing it towards the top of the pattern, and then you would pass your needle again like so, and then create a knot there. So you create the knot 2 times on that spot, and then you have to be careful when you're creating your knots because threads tangle more than invisible threads because they have more friction as opposed to invisible threads that are smoother and glide through more easily. So if you notice, I dragged my thread almost to the end, and then that was when I put my needle through the loop just to make sure that it didn't tangle. You can also use your fingers to hold the loop open just so it doesn't tangle as you're dragging your thread. And then when you are getting to the end, you start to release your fingers and then put the needle through, and then you drag. That way you don't make mistakes when creating your knots. We're using broken beads for this beading process, and then we're also going to use the sequence we cut out earlier for this process. And then we won't be using the sellotape method, rather we'll be picking the beads with our fingers. So don't make the mistake of picking so many beads at once. If you do that, then you would find it difficult to see the holes of the beads and then pass your needles through them. But if you pick them little by little, you would notice that you would pass your needles through the beads more easily. That's because you have fewer beads, and then you would be able to see the holes more easily as opposed to when you take a lot of them. It will just waste your time. So slow and steady wins the race. So just do it little by little, and then you would be able to, put as many beads through your thread faster than when you're doing it in bulk. Okay, so pay close attention to how I put my sequence using it as a stopper. So I pass my needle through the hole, and then it's going to play the role of a necklace, like a pendant, and then you want to put it back through the beads like this. Now, if you do this, notice that it's going to take a longer time to go all the way back to the roots, that's to the beginning of where the beading started from. I'm going to show you a faster process. This one will just waste your time a lot because you just keep going, and then you'll just be able to pass maybe about 5 beads at once or 6 beads at once. By the way, they are longer beading needles than this one, but I'm just using this because this is what I have available at the moment. So I'm going to show you a faster method to do this shortly. But I want you to see how slow the process is, just trying to get the beads to go through. So if you notice, there's a distance between the sequence and the beads. You want to keep the beads at an angle so that gravity works in your favor to push the beads down. Not straight up, just at an angle. And then you would pass your beads through. Try to, stick to the middle as possible, as good as possible, and just move through the beads and then drag it out. Notice that I went through more beads than I did previously. Next, use your sequence as a pulley. The tension is between your sequence and the thread. Now you would hold your thread backwards like this to create like an opening, just so you can see where you're putting your needle through the second set of beads, and then you push your needle through like so. And this is for a shorter length of bead. I'll show you how to pass your needle through longer lengths of beads. This is just for a shorter length, so of course it's going to be easier than when you're using longer beads. So you knot your thread like this. You go back to where the beginning of the knot was, where it started from, because you want to hide your knot. You don't want because invisible threads, they do a neater job than when you're using colored threads or, regular threads. So you have to be careful when you're hiding your knots, just so that your overall work looks as neat as possible. That's why you would go down back to where the knots began from. If you notice, when we started, we took our knots, we knotted it, and then went upwards, just few holes upwards in order for us to hide our knots. When you're done, it will give you a neater appearance as opposed to if you just knot anyhow. You have to be careful when you're knotting. Look at it, it's really neat. For the longer length, it's the same procedure. Just make sure your beads are at an angle so that gravity works in your favor, because you want your beads to be as close together as possible. When they are close together, your needle will not have any space to, stick out from. It will just go through the middle like so, like you did here. And then you drag your needle out and continue the procedure like that. Notice that the tension is between the sequence and the thread. You don't drag the net. Illusion net is very delicate and you don't want it tearing or, having holes wider than it should have. So notice that I used my finger to drag the thread backwards towards the sets that I had already passed the thread back through, so that I could see the space in between, and then put the needle through again, making sure that there are no spaces between the beads that I'm about to pass the needles through. So you put your needle through and then it will go through as many beads as possible. Also use your other finger to support the beads from under. It will keep it straight. Also remember not to make your beads very tight when you get back to the illusion net, because you want your beads to fall freely on the net. You don't want it to be very strong, because if it's strong, it will just stand. But if it falls freely, then it will just fall beautifully. So you just make sure that when you're tightening your beads, don't tighten them too much. Use your sequence and your thread to control the tightness of the bead. So make sure you release it a little bit before you create your knots under. I used the 3-point method like I did in this previous tutorial I already posted. I'll also leave the link in the description box. And then you want to do your beading from the bottom and progress towards the top. It's just like braiding the hair of a woman. You start from the bottom and then you move towards the top, just so that the ones coming from up don't disturb the ones down. So That's how you do the beading. So I use shorter lengths of about 20 beads at once at the bottom of the sleeve. And as I progressed upwards, I started increasing to 40, 45. And then I spaced out by about 2 inches in between and 2 inches as I progressed upwards. Thank you for watching. Bye.